All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of, is it episode 4? How did it get to be episode 4 already? All right. Welcome to episode 4 of Shannon Reads 1099 Instructions. I am going to share my screen with the instructions on them. Today's topic is box 3 on the 1099 miscellaneous other income. Enter other income of $600 or more required to be reported on Form 1099 miscellaneous that is not reportable in one of the other boxes on the form. Also enter in box 3 prizes and awards that are not for services performed. Include the fair market value of merchandise won on game shows. Also include amounts paid to a winner of a sweepstakes not involved in a wager. If a wager is made, report the winnings on Form W2G. Tip: if not later than 60 days after the winner becomes entitled to the prize, the winner can choose the option of a lump sum or an annuity payable over at least 10 years. The payment of winnings is considered made when actually paid. If the winner chooses an annuity, file Form 1099 miscellaneous each year to report the annuity paid during that year. So if people win prizes, they get the option of choosing how they want to get paid. Sometimes if it's especially if it's a cash prize like a lottery. So this is where a lot of people that appear on game shows and win big, this is where they get nailed with taxes, is it all gets reported on a 1099 and they don't have anything to offset their earnings, so they have to pay taxes at their tax bracket. And then a lot of times people end up having to forego their prize. Do not include prizes and awards paid to your employees. Report these on Form W2. Do not include in box 3 prizes and awards for services performed by non-employees, such as an award for top commission salesperson. Report that in box 1 of Form 1099 NEC. So while you can report prizes and awards that are paid or given out at fair market value for just to the general public, if an employee wins a prize or an award or Christmas gift, whatever, it needs to be reported at fair market value on their W2. All right, so prizes and awards received in recognition of past accomplishments in religious, charitable, scientific, artistic, educational, literary, or civic fields are not reportable if the winners are chosen without any action on their part, the winners are not expected to perform future services, and the payer transfers the prize or award to a charitable organization or government unit under a designation made by the recipient. So if you just randomly pick and say, hey, I'm just going to give these random people, that's not something that's going to be reported, but usually people will sign up for a prize or there's stuff that they have to do. I've seen a whole bunch of things where, especially around Christmas and New Year's, where somebody's like, oh, if you like this page and do this and subscribe on YouTube and you do all these things, I'm going to choose and give you a prize. Then the recipient should expect to receive a 1099 miscellaneous with box 3, and the person who gives it should expect to give a 1099 miscellaneous box 3 if that prize exceeds $600. Other items required to be reported in box 3 include the following: payments as explained earlier under deceased employees' wages. We skipped that part. We're going to talk about that later. Payments as explained earlier under Indian gaming profits payments to tribal members. We also skipped that part, so we're going to do that later. I was trying to do the stuff that more people are going to be needing, and the deceased employee wages and Indian gaming is something we're going to cover at the very, very end of January, because it's not super common. And 3, a payment or series of payments made to individuals for participating in medical research, study or studies. Termination payments to former self-employed insurance salespeople. These payments are not subject to self-employment tax and are reportable on box 3 of the 1099 miscellaneous rather than box 1 of Form 1099 NEC, if all of the following apply. The payments are received from an insurance company because of service performed as an insurance salesperson for the company, and the payments are received after termination of the salesperson's agreement to perform services for the company, and the salesperson did not perform any services for the company after termination and before the end of the year, and the salesperson enters into a covenant not to compete against the company for at least 1 year after the date of termination, and the amount of the payments depends primarily on policies sold by the salesperson or credited to the salesperson's account during the last year of service agreement, or to the extent those policies remain in force for some period after termination, or both. And the amount of the payment does not depend at all on the length of service or overall earnings from the company, regardless of whether eligibility for payments depends on length of service. So this is all to say, and I could be wrong in my summation, but if a salesperson was formerly employed selling insurance for an insurance company, and they've either been terminated or resigned, and they have policies in force for a period after their resignation or termination, that they would, if they were still employed, they would be eligible for these same commissions, and they get paid out at some point during the time for after they were an employee or a paid sales commission, and they have a non-compete, and they can't do the same job for a year for anybody else, then they get their commissions put on a 1099 box 3 for other income. But while they were an employee or a commission salesperson, typically gets a 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation. They get to have that income and not pay self-employment tax on it. Generally, all punitive damages or any damages for non-physical injuries or sickness and other taxable damages, report punitive damages even if they relate to physical injury or physical sickness. Generally, report all compensation or we're just going to skip over that word because I'm having trouble with it right now. Compensatory, that's it. All right. Generally report all compensatory damages for non-physical injury or sickness, such as employment discrimination or defamation. However, do not report damages other than punitive damages if they were received on account of personal physical injury or physical sickness, do not exceed the amount paid for medical care for emotional distress, receive on account of non-physical injuries, for example, emotional distress, under a written binding agreement, court decree, mediation award in effect or issued by September 13th, 1995, or that are for replacement of capital, such as damages paid to a buyer by a contractor who failed to complete construction of a building. I laugh on that one because we had issues with our builder, but we're not going to go into that right now. So basically, if you have punitive damages or anything that's not physical injury, or if it is for physical injury and it can't exceed the amount paid for medical care. So this one's kind of confusing, and I don't totally understand it. So whenever I've only run into this once ever, and it was a pretty unique situation. Excuse me for 1 second. All right. I was trying to find the mute so I didn't have to cough in your ear, but I failed at that. So I did. So forgive me for that. All right. Damages received on account of emotional distress, including physical symptoms such as insomnia, headaches, and stomach disorders, are not considered received for physical injury or physical sickness and are reportable unless described in item 5B or 5C above. However, damages received on account of emotional distress due to physical injury or physical sickness are not reportable. Also, report liquidated damages received under Age Discrimination Act or under the Age Discrimination and Employment Act of 1967. So all that to say, it's taxable unless it's not, and there some exclusions apply, and these rules and this part of the instructions make a ton more sense if you actually have somebody involved in that. So if you actually have somebody involved in this and you need further clarification on something, definitely put it in the comments below. Even if it's not January 2022 and you're reading this at a later date, put the comments in, and because we do monitor our comments on our channel very regularly. We are almost done. So also included in other income in box 3 of the 1099 miscellaneous are foreign agricultural workers that are paid $600 or more in a calendar year on an H-2A visa agricultural worker who did not give you a valid tax ID number. You must also withhold federal income tax under the backup withholding rules. So for more information, go to the irs.gov and enter foreign agricultural workers in the search box, and a nice fact sheet and page is going to come up and it's going to give you a ton more detail. And believe it or not, I actually had a question that was very, very, very similar to this today. And so I'm going to go back into the Payroll Solutions Community Facebook group and let the person know that I just now remembered this as I was reading the instructions again this year. And this next part about account reported under FATCA is if you're an FFI, financial fiduciary, I forget what that stands for. It's in the instructions above that I skipped over. And you're reporting pursuant to an election described in regulation section 1.1471-4D5IA, a U.S. account required to be to which during the year you made no payments reportable to I'm just going to skip this part. This hardly ever happens. And if you're an FFI, I certainly hope you know how to fill this part out. And if you're not an FFI, you should have no business filling this part out. So thank you for watching, and tune in again tomorrow where we cover tomorrow we're going to cover box 1 of the NEC. And I know that's what a lot of people have been waiting for. So we'll see you guys tomorrow where we cover box 1 of the NEC. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and do all the fun stuff. And if you're an accounting professional and you want to join our Facebook group, you can find us on Facebook at Payroll Solutions Community for